How do you do? We're about to unfold the story of
the Bride of Frankenstein. She's alive! Alive!
a monster created from cadavers out of rifled graves. A tale that sent my blood into icy creeps.
Would you like to hear what happened after that?
Well, we warned you.
Do it when I do it, not an hour and a half later.
I thought I did, but
you've been warned. Welcome back to Frankenstein Minute, the podcast that dissects the Universal Frankenstein film series minute by minute. Fucking Frankenstein film series minute by minute. I am Bill Evenson.
And I am Tom Lang, and this is minute 53 of 1935's Bride of Frankenstein.
Happy anniversary. It's been a year, apparently, since we've been talking about
this film, yeah. Could have done it without you.
I guess so. Couldn't have, yes. Perfect.
And Elizabeth finishes telling off Pretorius, and then we're leaving. Oh.
Yeah.
And she trots out of there. This is where you're talking about the exclamation point last week, right? That's the,
yeah. She just walks out of the room.
Turns and walks away from him. Yeah, camera follows her. Pretorius bows as she's going. We don't see his face, but I'm assuming it's more of a fuck you bow than an actual...
Is there a fuck you bow? Is there a fuck you curtsy?
I think you could fuck you just about anything if you really put your mind to it.
Yeah, I suppose that's probably true.
Yeah, I'm
hoping for a fuck you inauguration in a couple of weeks.
I certainly am, too.
In the 1977 Carl Dreadstone novelization, she says, "Your visit is most unwelcome." Mm-hmm. And that says, "Henry raised his head. The faintest hint of hope glinted in his eyes. Henry, I am going for my brooch now.
Oh, here we go.
Prefer me not to be present at your discussion." And then, even now, she was afraid to hear. "I shall be only a few minutes, Dr. Pretorius, but when I return, I shall expect you to have the grace to leave." So there's a lot going on. First of all, brooch.
Brooch or brooch.
I Googled it, and apparently the word is brooch, except in some obscure place called the United States of America, where we say brooch. Yeah. She's going for her cameo brooch. You talked about it last week.
I did. It's just
the novel just goes on.
It goes on for page after page, and nobody cares.
It's like on her pillow or something.
Yeah. She looks around the room, and we get a detailed description of that. How dark the castle is because the Baron wouldn't allow electricity. Blah blah blah
Peter,
blah blah.
Peter the Baron?
No, Peter was the son of the footman or something.
Okay.
I don't know. I think I fell asleep a couple times reading it. It was
what it is it's like Edgermont was called in to punch up Dreadstone novelization. It's really not him to do that.
No, it's not. He came in as a script doctor for that one chapter.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Bizarre.
It goes absolutely nowhere.
No, there's no point to it. The only thing I would say is, and maybe I said this last week, he explains why she leaves the room. But he also says, okay, so there's a few things that happen here. Henry raised his head. The faintest hint of hope glinted in his eyes. Mm-hmm. After she says, "Your visit is most unwelcome," which technically we could have talked about last week. But it's like, I like that because it's Henry has the faintest hint of hope because he's hoping Elizabeth is going to convince Pretorius to leave.
Take care of it for him, yeah.
Yeah, take care of it for him.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything.
Then the thing about the brooch is, she says, "Henry, I'm going for my brooch now. You may prefer me not to be present at your discussion," which is interesting.
Yeah.
She's saying, go ahead and talk to this guy. You probably don't want me around.
Yeah.
Then the next sentence, "Even now she was afraid to hear," which is interesting. She's coming off all tough, but the reason she leaves is because she's afraid to hear what they're going to
She doesn't want to hear this business, yeah.
And there's probably something to that. But I'm glad it's not explored in the movie. I like her just being tough.
Yeah, no, I like, then we're leaving, boom, walk away. Yep, I like that. Because this goes on, and this is where the monster abducts her in the novel, the 77 novel.
I don't like
and I think the timeline doesn't work at all.
The timeline?
Well, yeah, because he's upstairs abducting Elizabeth, and then moments later he's outside the window for Pretorius to usher him in. It just doesn't work.
Oh, so, I'd have to go back and reread it, but are we sure the monster abducts Elizabeth?
Well, it says this white face and a hand that smells, the giant hand that smells like earth.
Oh.
I mean, who else would
Okay.
Who else would it be?
Yeah, probably not Carl.
Not Carl. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's not made extremely.
Well, you know what I'm thinking of is the
explicit.
script. I'm thinking not of the novelization, but the script. Even in the script, it's different. Right?
The script goes pretty much as it does.
It goes in the right order.
Yeah.
It goes in the right order, but
Yeah.
it's just not the same. We don't see it.
Yeah, it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Okay.
But
All right.
overall,
I guess the problem I'm having is I could have sworn there was a point at which Carl was going to abduct Elizabeth, but maybe I just made that up, and maybe it's because he's with her later.
Yeah, he sort of tending to her later, which there's some problems with that when we get to it too. But no,
Is Carl all over the place?
He's kind of all over the place. So it's a question of geography, basically.
Yeah.
We'll get there. But I don't care why she's leaving. She's just leaving, though. So we don't need this whole chapter describing, climbing up the stairs in the dark and this Peter that we've never heard of or never hear of again.
Well, hello.
Yes, there we go.
That's all I can think.
There
when
we
I
go.
see Peter.
We were supposed to get an interview with that guy. What happened there?
We're working on it.
Okay.
We're waiting on the contact info to come through the U.S. Postal Service.
Interwebs.
Yeah.
Then I like how Pretorius kind of watches her go with this barely concealed contempt, and then he turns around, he's all smiles and as if nothing happened. And even the script says, then turns to Henry and says as though nothing untoward has happened. And I really like that he's just sort of.
And it reminds me again of minute whatever I said before, 18 or 17 or whatever. He turns his nose as far up as it can go when she's leaving the room, then turns around and gets down to business.
Yep. Yeah. They don't like each other. I'm gathering from all this.
Something went wrong somewhere. Because as we said last week, he really does. You could interpret his felicitations to be perfectly polite,
right?
Unless they aren't.
Exactly.
She's probably right. They probably aren't.
She's probably right. I think you know why I am here, Henry. And Clive sits down, and he spends the majority of the scene sitting down, standing up, sitting down, standing up.
Well, there's a really good reason.
There's a reason why, yeah.
I like when he sits down and Pretorius sits down next to him in a weird way.
Well, and he puts his hand on Henry's hand, and then Henry yanks his hand away.
It's the way that he crouches down almost like an animal or something. And it reminded me of, I thought, this is just like in the old dark house. And then I thought, but it isn't even him. It isn't even Thesiger in the old dark house. It's Saul.
Yeah.
He reminds me of Saul.
Oh, okay. The kind of almost a fey quality about it, or
yeah, like a weirdness, like that when he's at the table and he's scooting around.
Saul is at the table with Melvin Douglas, yeah.
With Melvin Douglas. Friend. Does he call him friend?
Yes.
Or what does he call him?
You're my
I love you,
friend. Yeah, and it's just super creepy.
And this minus the dialogue is.
I think, like I said, the way he touches Henry's hand, and Henry is just repulsed by it.
Well, Henry is freaking out.
Yeah.
He is rubbing the heck out of that arm of the chair.
Yeah, and he's like
both hands.
Shrinking back into the chair like a little kid who is being scolded almost.
Yeah, that's. Okay, I guess it's in this minute. I'm sorry, I just had it later. Okay. But it looks like a giant chair.
Yeah, it looks like Henry looks really small in the chair.
And then when they cut back to a regular, wide shot, it's just a regular
chair. Yeah.
But he shrinks into it. He's
so withdrawn, and he looks so weak.
Yes.
Compared to Pretorius.
I almost wonder if it's a regular chair, but that it's extra deep so that he could sink
could
further
be.
into
It could be.
Because he sits forward in it.
Yeah.
Part of the time, and then when it's in a close-up, he sinks.
Or they had a different prop that they specially built, so he looks smaller for the close-ups. Yeah. That's possible.
Right, that could be. And those close-ups, Whale loves these guys. He loves their faces.
Yeah, well, he always
push in closer and closer to Thesiger.
Yep.
We cut back to Clive and
push in closer and closer to him.
Clive.
Yeah,
like uncomfortably close.
Yeah,
Clive's face is just filling the screen.
Right, and I think it's great. I think it's on purpose that it's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And Pretorius's face gets more and more animated as he gets more and more excited, and Clive's gets more and more agitated.
I was going to say panicked. One thing I noticed is Pretorius isn't looking at him most of the time. He says, I've created by my method. A perfect human brain, already living, but dormant. And then what's the next line? I don't even remember.
Don't tell me of it, I don't want to hear, I think, or something like that. Doesn't he say? Henry?
No, the next line is, everything's
ready for our supreme collaboration.
For that line, he looks at Henry.
Yeah.
But before that, he's staring off into the distance because he's not looking at him.
No.
Anyway, I didn't notice that until this time when I watched it.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of, I have created by my method a perfect human brain, already living but dormant. He grew a brain?
That's exactly what I was going to ask, because he grew it from seed. So, So I would assume that would be the case, because like I said a few weeks back, there is somewhere that the skeleton that they purloin of Madalena Ernestine is what Pretorius uses as the substrate to grow the body of the bride.
Huh. I think I remember you saying this before.
Yeah.
But that would include the brain then, huh?
Yeah.
Huh.
The only thing they need... Well, we'll get to that. There's an essential organ they need that apparently Pretorius isn't able to grow. I'm not entirely sure.
We all know. Yeah, I kind of went back and watched it with that in mind to see if I'd missed anything, the whole movie. And it's just vague in the movie, and it's fine. The more I think about it, the more we talk about it, the less I understand what Pretorius is doing at any given moment.
Yeah.
And I got no problem with any of it.
No, I think...
he's a crazy, kooky, mad scientist, and I don't know what the hell he's up to. But it seems like he grew this brain.
Yeah, no, I think that's what's inferred. He says, by my method.
Yeah, I've changed my mind.
Yeah, this is where we get the really tight close-up of Henry. It pushes in, and he's gets, like you said, more and more agitated as the camera gets closer. And I suppose I would too, but...
So here's the thing about it. I've changed my mind. The last time we saw Henry, in minute 26, the conversation ended like this. Create a race, a man-made race upon the face of the earth. Why not? And he says, I daren't. I daren't even think of such a thing. And our mad dream is only half realized. Alone you have created a man. Now together we will create his mate. You mean... Yes, a woman. That should be really interesting.
Really interesting.
I went into... Yes, I haven't drilled my R's nearly enough just in general in life.
Yeah.
The reason I read all that out is because I want to make sure I haven't missed anything. I don't see why Henry says, I've changed my mind. That scene didn't end...
Well, that doesn't mean where
with him saying, yeah, let's do it. This is great.
Well, it doesn't mean where the scene ends is where the conversation ended.
Very much
it could have
true. It's not like he walked out the door.
Right. It could have continued after the fade out. That was a choice line to fade out on.
Yes, that's true.
And that's
got to be true.
And maybe he just agrees to it.
But it's funny to me because what the movie supposes then is that, or what we are meant to assume is that Henry did eventually come around.
Yeah. Well,
and that's crazy. We don't get anything like that.
No, and maybe it's Henry agrees to get the hell out of there because it's a creepy place to be.
I don't know what you mean.
He agrees with Pretorius in his apartment to just get out of there because it's the middle of the night. He doesn't feel good.
I see what you mean. He pretends to
He's
agree.
Like, yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Bye.
Yep.
Bye.
But
either way, it doesn't matter that. Again, I'm nitpicking. It doesn't matter that much. The point, he's still freaking out and making it clear that he's not on board.
Right. I guess that's never bothered me. I'd always just kind of taken it as it's part of the story. Yeah. Or it could be that Pretorius just assumes Henry's going to be on board and doesn't really. Henry doesn't.
So Henry assumes Pretorius assumes, and that's why he says I've changed my mind.
Could be. I don't know. And they could have talked about it in between.
Or maybe does he say I've changed my mind because now he agrees? No, that'd be hilarious. I've changed my mind. Let's do it.
Damn, this sounds like a good idea.
Jumps out of his chair. Where's this new assistant I've heard about?
Kicks his feet. Yeah. Then
I like Pretorius says, go ahead.
Oh, just the rage with which Pretorius says, I expected this. And he's almost spitting it as he says it. So if he expected it, I don't know why it makes him so mad.
He expected it, but he's still disappointed.
Well, sure.
He's wanted Henry.
Well, he wants Henry to be...
If you look at it from Pretorius's point of view, I think this is good to discuss this because it's more insight into Pretorius. From the outside, he somehow found out what Henry got up to in the first movie.
Right.
And he approached Henry like, this is fucking great. I'm so happy to see you. We are going to have a
this is going to
great,
be, yeah.
I couldn't imagine anything better. And, in the back of his mind, he's like, and that's the thing about I expected this is Pretorius is thinking of everything.
Yeah, he's got his bases covered. Yep.
Chess master. Got his bases covered like in chess. My metaphors are... we went two different metaphors and I can't put them together.
That's all right.
I felt like I had one other thing to say about that.
Well, he's thinking.
He's thinking of everything.
Thinking one step ahead.
Yeah.
Which is,
like in chess.
Like in chess. I think maybe, he hadn't planned on partnering with the monster, but it was a nice piece of happenstance for him, and he's using it to his advantage.
Right. Well, as we'll see soon.
Yeah, he didn't seek out the monster. The monster didn't seek him out, but they crossed paths at a really opportune moment.
As we'll see.
Deus ex machina.
Yep.
We might need... Oh, go ahead.
It's funny because maybe I didn't think about Bride of Frankenstein enough before we started doing this podcast, but it did feel a little more organized to me before. I knew that they'd met sort of by coincidence in that location, but it just felt like a little more planned by Pretorius. But you're right. There's nothing to indicate that.
Pretorius would have no idea that this is where the monster would be at that particular moment.
Yeah. Oh, I thought I was alone. So obviously he has no idea. Okay. Meanwhile, Henry is a fucking mess.
Yes, he is. Which I think, it's art imitating life at that point for Colin Clive, too.
Well, that's right. I mean, we talked about those close-ups. And
he looks...
their faces. And
he looks like Henry did at the beginning of Frankenstein, but I don't think the makeup is there now. It's just what Clive looks like. Which is really tragic. I mean, he clearly a talented guy, but just not good at life.
Yeah.
Fond of the grape, and there's stories of him being at a party. I can't remember who tells this, whether it was Valerie Hobson or somebody was saying that, or it could have been, not Glorious. Yeah, maybe. But they were at a party, and he was sitting in a lawn chair in this yard where this party was going on, drinking, and the back legs of the chair were slowly sinking into the ground to the point where he finally was just lying on the ground, still drinking. Didn't miss a beat.
If it wasn't a story about something tragic, it doesn't sound bad. That sounds like a lovely way to spend your afternoon.
Yeah. Kind of a nice comical anecdote, but when you apply it to Colin Clive, it's terribly tragic.
Yeah, I don't know. And then, of course, what are you going to do? And Whale, took advantage and pushed in for the close-up. He's like, I wish this was in color so you could really see how bloodshot his eyes are.
See the gin blossoms. Yeah.
Well, he doesn't look like a guy who has gin blossoms.
No, he doesn't. And it's very possible he had makeup. But, I mean, I've seen pictures of, W.C. Fields, sans makeup, and it's pretty frightening.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. I thought we might need another
See me without
assistant.
makeup.
Oh, that's really horrifying, yeah.
So we've got another assistant. Pretorius has lined up another assistant. So when he says another assistant...
Well, that's what I was going to question. He's like, in addition to Carl and Rudy and later on Ludwig, and Henry's going to get hold of Fritz's brother or something.
Peter?
I don't know
Peter
what all
in this one,
Peter,
or is that something else?
Peter, no, that's
Hans? Is
Igor.
there a Hans?
There's no Hans. I think in the
Fritz is Fritz not still around, is he?
Fritz, no, he's gone.
No, but he was in the script. But we've covered that ground. We covered the Fritz thing. It's different Fritz. Gotta be.
It's a different Fritz.
It's worth talking about because he says it, but I would interpret it generally to mean none of those things, and then he means another assistant in addition to himself.
To the
just
two
the two
of them.
Yeah, but who cares what he means?
I mean, there was the stuff cut in Pretorius's apartment where Carl comes to the door.
That's right.
If we take that as part of the whole thing, then Henry would be aware that this guy works for Pretorius.
That's true.
Because I think Pretorius sees them as almost equals. Not, I know he said me as your assistant, but I think that was to sweeten the deal for Henry. But I think Pretorius sees them.
He was buttering him up.
Yeah, sees them as equals, and so then we need a few more sets of hands.
Yeah, he probably doesn't even see them as equals. Probably more like,
no, I'm
this is
sure
the guy I
he
got to
feels
put
like
up with.
He's got something I need.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Either way, it would be funny if he said, I've got another assistant, and you opened the door and Carl was standing there. Carl, Henry, Carl shuts the door.
and
Henry's
scene.
like, oh, nice to... And they close the door.
Yeah. Perhaps he can persuade you.
Yeah.
And Henry is pretty adamant that nothing can persuade him, but Pretorius isn't quite so sure. Kind of a casual, oh, we shall see. Mm-hmm. And we open the door, and who's standing on the other side but
Carl.
our old friend Carl. Loff.
I'm sorry, I can't get it out of my head.
That's all right.
Now this scene has Carl.
It is Carl Loff.
Carl.
It's the monster's standing.
There you go. You had to say it twice for me.
Yeah, I know. The monster's standing outside the door.
The door. I thought he went in the window in the
In
script.
and in the various novelizations.
Monster climbs in the
window, which it reads awkward, and I can't imagine it playing any other way but awkward. This, I think, is much more effective. We get some really nice dramatic up angles of the monster walking through the door.
I love this in combination with last week when we talked about the two doors coming in with that landing.
Yeah.
Also not in the script.
Right.
I just love the idea of I can just picture Whale sitting down with the script and a cigarette.
A cigar. It would have been a cigar.
Tea. Yeah, I guess it would be. He's like, no, Xing out this part. No, we'll put in a landing here.
Yeah.
We'll put a back door to this room over there.
It could be that he talked to Danny Hall and they came up with all this as he was designing the sets. Sure, absolutely, because I'm sure Whale had a lot of input into that. I mean, I'm not a big auteur theory fan, but I think you can almost apply it in this instance because certainly this film has Whale written all over it. So I think he had a hand in just about everything. I mean, if he had a hand in
what the auteur theory is, or do we need to?
It's that the director is the author of the film, basically.
It's
a French
prominence in the 60s.
60s, the French New Wave, and they
auteur is French for author, and so that's how the theory works.
Yeah, and they would apply it to people like Howard Hawks, and certainly there's a
Roger Corman.
There's
Ed Wood.
Yeah. Well, definitely Ed Wood. But I totally forgot where I was going. So.
I was trying to think of the guy that did Red Zone Cuba.
Oh, Coleman Francis, yeah.
Coleman Francis. He probably is.
Oh, he probably is, yeah. I think Whale had a hand in almost every aspect. I mean, if he had a hand in Ann Darling's underwear, then he had a hand in everywhere else, too. Boom.
Did you mean that to say? Okay, I wasn't sure if you did that on purpose.
I did.
I mean, it's either that or several people had their hands in Ann Darling's underwear.
Yeah. Sorry, Ann, wherever you are.
Sorry, Ann. Well, it's Ann's. Ann told the tale.
She did.
So
and
that's how we know it. It's not like Whale was bragging about this.
Pretty proud of that moment in his career. Then there was the time when.
Yes. It's like the first thing out of his mouth at
every interview. It was the scene they cut out of Gods and Monsters.
Gods and Monsters, yeah. So no, there's just a back door, and he opens the door, and the music is familiar.
It's the familiar bum 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 monster theme on the low brass, which sounds really cool.
And then it
goes into the trilling strings. Yeah,
it's perfect. Yeah. The music in this scene's perfect.
Well, it's very evocative.
Screw you, Dino. It's really good
here. We have the La La Land score CD that I know we both listen to a lot.
Definitely. To the point where it may have gotten in my head a little bit too much. I don't know where the train tracks are, I guess, that are near my house, but this morning I heard a train, and I'm like, is that the Monsters theme? I thought it was playing. I'm hearing it in everything now.
See, we have a train track about a half a mile away. Now that's all I'll hear when a train
goes by. Next time you're going to hear it.
No, that's fine.
It's not far off.
Okay.
Yeah.
What?
Go ahead.
I was
just going to say, maybe that train track comes from my house to your house, so I'll hear it. And then 3 minutes later.
Yeah.
So text me and I'll
hear
it too. Yeah. The nerdiest thing I've ever done. And that's saying something.
I think maybe the nerdiest thing that the two of us did was we were at a Twins game, and all we talked about is how the Force Awakens would not have the 20th Century Fox fanfare on it.
remember that.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
Yeah, it was seriously disappointing, but I gotta say, what they came up with was an interesting substitute, like a fanfare for Lucasfilm. I think is what they went with. Yeah. Well, now of course they could go back. They
could go back and put it back. Yeah, because they own Fox.
I wonder if they did. They probably did. They're changing those movies all the time.
Every time I watch it, it's even the DVDs I have. They're different when I watch them.
I was just talking to somebody about something in Star Wars. You know, we have a Doctor Who tavern. Put the Doctor Who music under this.
Okay.
But
you'll have to send it to me because I don't think I have it anymore.
Because I'm good. Put the Doctor Who music on because I'm going to talk about Star Wars.
Okay,
again.
perfect.
But in the show The Mandalorian,
which you did the voice of, right? You're the voice of the Mandalorian in that.
Yeah, that's right. I am the Lego Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I'm sure by now there probably is a Lego Mandalorian, and I'm not that one. Some other one.
Okay.
One you haven't seen is me. But now you threw me.
I'm so sorry. Or maybe not.
But there's a show called The Mandalorian. It's the best Star Wars they've made in long time.
That's what everybody tells me. I'm gonna have to sit down and watch it.
I'd recommend just watch the first episode. It's got Werner Herzog.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's great.
Is he
I need to tell you he's great.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for that little tidbit.
He walks into a room and Werner Herzog is sitting there and talking Star Wars shit, about whatever.
Well, you can't go wrong with that.
And this new season, they're starting to introduce bringing characters in from the movies, which is something that annoys me. But one guy is the guy who played Boba Fett's dad. Do you remember this from Star Wars?
From the was it from the
prequels?
Clone Attack of the Clones or whatever?
That's the one.
Send in the clones.
I think that's exactly the one.
Okay.
And so somebody pointed out to me, because I only watched the original versions. I have copies of those.
Yeah.
So someone pointed out to me that in the latest releases, when you watch those, all the stormtrooper voices have been replaced with that guy's voice.
Are you kidding me? Oh.
See, you didn't even know that.
No,
because why would you watch that garbage?
I wouldn't.
I don't like anything. I can complain about anything.
Yeah, I'm sure I could find something and you'll complain about. How about this podcast? Do you like this?
No. I like it now.
Okay.
Right now I like it. Yeah.
Because we're not talking.
It's going well. We're not
talking about Frankenstein. So, the monster is standing on the other side of the door. Henry flips out.
You don't say.
I do say. And Henry's, no, not that. As disturbed as he was by Pretorius, the monster ramps that up by about 10. And Henry is...
And I agree. I think it's his reaction is pretty great. It's funny because there's a weird difference in the script.
Yeah.
The script, he says, not in here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll talk to him anywhere else, just not in my library.
Yeah, like, I don't care about the monster.
Yeah, just they don't want
as an idea.
Don't want him in my house.
He smells like whatever you say.
Earth.
Earth smells like earth. Get him out of here.
Dreadstone said, yeah.
No, it's perfect. And then Pretorius says, he's quite harmless except when crossed, which is a great way for Pretorius to kind of have it both ways.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry about it. That's fine.
He's
unless.
Yeah. And I like how he's standing. He's kind of off to the left of the frame, Pretorius. I'm doing it. He always kind of has that one arm sort of.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm looking at my notes because I have something about that next week.
Oh, okay.
I like that you brought it up this week.
All right. Yeah.
Because I'll have more to say about that next week.
Okay. Well, let's.
On that note.
Well, yeah. Let's talk about it next week.
Let's not forget that we have a Patreon.
Oh.
That we still have that up and running, and it's going really well.
Keeps the lights on here.
Happy about it. Yes, exactly. Keep the lights on over at. That's funny. I look over and there's nothing but light.
Oh, I need to close. I need to close the blinds because
we don't need that much
the
light.
sun is streaming in.
We appreciate it if you wouldn't mind, just sign up at Patreon.
If you wouldn't mind, if you could find it in your heart to support us.
Sign up at the friend level. Every time you hear me say this, not every time, but this time that you hear me say this, there's more bonus content than there was the last time I said it. We're still putting stuff out there, and you get all of it on day one. As soon as you sign up, you can go
download the whole works.
Download all the bonus content. You got it today.
Be the first one on your block to do so. You make all your friends jealous.
I don't know, man. There's so many people on your block that are already signed up.
That could be.
I don't know.
You don't want to be the last one. How about that?
I like it.
And scene.
And scene.